Good day and shalom from Torah Shorts. Today we're going to be looking at a topic called the Higher Torah. The Higher Torah is something that not many people know about, and there is a specific reason for that, is because it does not fall in line with the theology of the church, of Christian theology. So let's see what Yahuwah has to say about that. Everybody's got an idea of what the perfect life is for them. Some would like to have a lot of money, some would like to have good health, some are workaholics, they would like to work hard and do their job that they enjoy. So we all have different ideas of what a perfect life is for ourselves. But Yahuwah has his own idea too. And if we are true believers, then we, the believer, our idea of perfect life must fall in line with Yahuwah's idea of a perfect life. We read the following in 1 John 5 verse 20. And we know that the Son of Elohim has come and has given us an understanding, so that we might know the true one, and we are in the true one, in his Son Yahusha Messiah. This is the true Elohim and everlasting life. Now the key here is that we must understand that Yahuwah gives his people, his chosen ones, an understanding, and this understanding points to the fact that we, the believer, are in the true one, and the true one is everlasting life. That is Yahuwah's idea of perfect life. No other teaching outside the teaching of Yahusha is acceptable. Not the teaching of Paul, according to the Christians, who teaches that only the law applies for the Jews, that circumcision has been done away with, eating of kosher foods has been done away with, the scriptural feasts are being done away with. Those are all scriptural facts that are part of Yahusha's teaching. We see the following, and take note of the importance of the teaching of our Messiah. We read from 2 John 1 verse 8. See to yourselves that we do not lose what we worked for, but that we might receive a complete reward. Everyone who is transgressing and not staying in the teaching of Messiah does not possess Elohim. The one who stays in the teaching of Messiah possesses both the Father and the Son. This is key for knowledge for us to understand. That the teaching of Messiah is the only teaching, and if you stay in that teaching, you will receive and possess the Father and the Son. Verse 10. If anyone comes to you and does not bring this teaching, do not receive him. Do not receive him into your house, nor greet him. For he who greets him shares in his wicked works. This is very important to understand. Now, you have to now just cast your mind back to some of the other chats we had, where I repeatedly gave you information that Yahuwah never changes, and scriptural references. Now, keeping that in mind, Yahuwah says the following in 2 Timothy 2 verse 5. If anyone competes in a game, he is not crowned unless he competes according to the rules. Now, what is Yahuwah's rules for us as believers? His Torah, his 10 commandments. And you have to also remember that these commandments that Yahuwah has given, Yahusha taught. So that is part of Yahusha's teaching. We see in Luke 4 verse 16 and 17 that this was the practice of Yahusha. And he came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up, and according to his practice, he went into the congregation on the Sabbath day and stood up and read. And the scroll of the prophet of Yeshayahu was handed to him, And having unrolled the scroll, he found the place where it was written. So we see here that Yahusha went to the congregation on the Sabbath. And what did he do? He read from the scroll of Yeshayahu, which is a prophet, which is in the Tanakh. And this, in other words, Yahusha taught from the Tanakh. There was no renewed covenant at that point, what the Christians call New Testament. So all of Yahusha's teaching is based on the Tanakh. So let us see what Yahusha taught about the Torah. And we read this in Matthew 5, chapter 5, and I'm going to take some verses from there to make some references. The first one, what I would like to look at is Matthew 5:17, and the Christians use this as a fact that Yahusha did away with the Torah. And the verse goes as follows: "Do not think I came to destroy the Torah or the prophets. I did not come to destroy, but complete." Now they just focus on the word that he came to complete or to fulfill. That does not mean he did away with it. Because if we go back to the verse a little earlier, it says, "Do not think I came to destroy the Torah or the prophets." So he didn't do away with it. Yahusha continues. He says, "For truly I say to you, till the heaven and the earth pass away, one yod or one tittle shall by no means pass from the Torah till all be done." As far as I can see, if I look outside, the heavens and the earth is still here. Then nothing has been removed from the Torah. He continues, verse 19, "Whoever then breaks one of the least of these commands and teaches men so, shall be called least in the reign of the heavens. But whoever does and teaches them, he shall be called great in the heavens, in the reign of the heavens." So Yahuwah is making this quite clear, that not even the least of the Torah commands can be done away with. And then finally, the next one, Matthew 5 verse 20, he says, "For I say to you, that unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and the Pharisees, you shall by no means enter into the reign of the heavens." So why does Yahusha say that? Because the scribes and the Pharisees knew the Torah. They knew it very well. They kept the Torah. And he says, we must exceed the righteousness of the Pharisees and the scribes. Meaning, we have to be better than them. If we're not, then we will not enter into the reign of the heavens. Right, the next one. And now we're going to be moving towards the higher Torah understanding. Yahusha said in verse 27, "You have heard that it was said of those of old, you shall not commit adultery." That was in the days of Moshe. Today, it goes like this: "But I say to you that everyone looking at a woman to lust for her has already committed adultery with her in his heart." So the Torah remains the same. What changes? Only how it is being enforced. In other words, in the days of old, there actually had to be sexual intercourse to commit adultery. We cannot do that. That is the law. But Yahusha says, now, even if you look at a woman with lust, you've committed adultery. So the same law applies, but enforced much stricter. He continues, verse 37, "But let your word be yes, your word yes be yes, and your no be no. And what goes beyond these is from the wicked one." There should never be a need to make a promise. Your yes must be yes, and when people speak to you, that's how they know you. And then Yahusha completes this chapter with the following words: "Therefore, be perfect, as your Father in the heavens is perfect. That is really important to understand. Why do we have to be perfect? Because Yahusha cannot dwell in us. The Father cannot dwell in us as long as we are sinners or have darkness in us. For us to be restored in our relationship with Yahuwah, we have to be perfect. In other words, without sin. We read in Romans 6 verse 1 and 2. What then shall we say? Shall we continue in sin to let favor increase? That is the Christian teaching. And he answers his own question by saying, let it not be. How shall we who died to sin still live in it? We don't. We do not live in sin. We must be perfect. And then we see in the following the purpose of the Higher Torah. Why is there the Higher Torah? In Exodus 19 verse 5 we read, and now, if you diligently obey my voice, and shall guard my covenant, then you shall be my treasured possession above all the peoples, for all the earth is mine. And you shall be to me a reign of priests and a set-apart nation. Those are the words which you are to speak to the children of Israel. The purpose of the Higher Torah is this, that we will live a life obeying His commands, so that our soul and our heart and our being will be clean, that Yahusha can live in us. And by Yahusha living in us, we receive the power to overcome sin. And so we are able to live without sin. This does not mean that we will never sin. It just means we will not live as sinners. And the reason why that is, we read the most beautiful verse, and I've shared this with you before, John 14:23, and Yahusha answered him, if anyone loves me, he shall guard my word. You will guard his commands. And my Father shall love him, and we shall come to him and make our stay with him. Relationship restored with Yahuwah and Yahusha, and they can dwell in us. The whole idea and the message of the gospel. Hallelujah.